I remember the day like it happened just yesterday. The soft hum of the dishwasher in the kitchen, the golden warmth of the afternoon sun pouring through the living room windows, and the muffled sound of the lawnmower from across the street painted a peaceful picture, the kind of stillness that usually calms a restless soul. But that day, everything felt oddly heavy, like the calm before an inevitable storm. My stepson, Ryan, sat across from me on the couch, fidgeting slightly, his eyes betraying a hesitation I hadn't seen before. He was 21, fresh out of college, mature beyond his years, and fiercely observant. I had always admired that about him. And then he said it. Just 6 words that sliced through the air like a knife. "Are you truly happy with Dad?" I felt a lump form in my throat as I turned to look at him. There was no sarcasm, no accusation in his voice, just genuine curiosity and concern. But I wasn't ready for the truth to come knocking so loudly and so unexpectedly. How could I explain years of emotional compromise in a single conversation? How could I put into words the subtle loneliness that had quietly taken up residence in my heart, like ivy slowly creeping over a wall until nothing beautiful showed through? My husband, Michael, was a good man, kind, responsible, and deeply devoted to his son. We met when Ryan was just 7, a quiet boy struggling to understand why his mother had chosen to leave. Michael had always carried the weight of her absence like a hidden scar, one he covered with routine, structure, and a desperate attempt to keep everything under control. When he and I met, I mistook that need for control as strength, as stability, something I craved at the time. I had come from chaos myself, from heartbreaks and broken promises, and Michael's predictable rhythm felt like a safe harbor. In the beginning, we were happy. Not the head over heels, passionate kind of love you read about in novels, but something more grounded. He brought me coffee in bed on Sundays. We took Ryan to the park, laughed during movie nights, and held hands under the dinner table. For a while, that was enough. It felt like we were building something solid, something worth holding on to. But somewhere along the line, the intimacy began to fade. Not in a dramatic way, not with screaming matches or slamming doors, but like a slow leak in a tire. You don't notice it at first, but eventually, the ride becomes bumpy and unbearable. Michael became more of a roommate than a partner. Our conversations revolved around bills, chores, and Ryan's school progress. The silence between us grew deeper with time, filled with unspoken resentments and unmet needs. I tried to revive us, date nights, therapy suggestions, love letters tucked in his briefcase, but he always had a reason to brush it aside. He wasn't cruel. He just didn't see the problem. To him, we were doing fine. We weren't fighting. We weren't cheating. We had a house, jobs, and a son we both loved. What more was there to want? But I did want more, not in material things, but in connection. I wanted someone who noticed when I was quiet, someone who asked how my day was and listened, really listened. I wanted to be touched not just out of routine, but with desire, to be looked at like I was the reason someone's heart skipped a beat. I wanted to laugh deeply, cry openly, and feel like I belonged entirely. And I didn't. Not anymore. And now here was Ryan looking at me with those big, brown, knowing eyes that had watched me closely over the years. I took a deep breath, unsure of how much to reveal. I didn't want to taint his image of his father or burden him with adult complications. But I also knew I owed him honesty. He deserved that much. "Ryan," I began, my voice shaking just slightly. "That's a really big question, and it's not easy to answer." He nodded, giving me space. "I love your father," I continued, "and I always will. He gave me a place in this family, made me feel needed, and together we built a life. But happiness? That's more complicated." I saw his jaw tighten just a little, and he leaned forward. "You don't have to protect me," he said quietly. "I'm not a kid anymore. I see things." And just like that, the dam broke. I haven't felt truly seen in a long time, I admitted. Your dad, he's so focused on providing and keeping everything stable that he forgets how to connect. I've tried. God, I've tried. But I feel like I've been shrinking inside myself, bit by bit. Ryan was silent for a long while. I wondered if I'd said too much, if I had shattered something sacred between us. But then he surprised me. He reached over, gently took my hand, and said, "I always wondered why your eyes looked sad when you thought no one was watching." That one sentence brought tears to my eyes. This young man, whom I had helped raise, had noticed what even my husband hadn't. We sat there in silence, our hands clasped, both trying to make sense of the unspoken truths that had lived in our home for far too long. That conversation changed everything. Not overnight, but slowly and irreversibly. Ryan, despite his young age, became a quiet force of courage in my life. He encouraged me to speak my truth to Michael, to stop pretending everything was fine. With Ryan's support, I finally sat down with Michael one evening after dinner and laid my heart bare. I told him how I felt invisible, how I longed for deeper emotional intimacy, how I wasn't sure I could continue living a life where I felt more like a shadow than a wife. Michael was stunned. At first, he was defensive, hurt even. "You should have told me," he said, eyes welling up. "I thought we were okay." "I did tell you," I whispered. "Many times. In ways you didn't hear." We cried that night. Really cried. For the first time in years, I saw a crack in Michael's armor, a glimpse of the man who once wooed me with poetry and long walks under the stars. We decided to try again, not out of obligation, but out of choice. We started therapy, separately and together. It wasn't easy. We stumbled a lot. There were days I wanted to give up, days he pulled away again. But something had shifted. Ryan moved out shortly after, got his own place, started dating a lovely girl named Ava, but he remained close, checking in, supporting both of us in quiet ways. His question had acted as a mirror, forcing us all to confront what we had become. Now, 3 years later, I won't pretend everything is perfect, but it's better. Michael and I still have hard days, but we also have days filled with real laughter, shared vulnerability, and even dancing in the kitchen while the coffee brews. We make time for each other. We listen more. We argue with honesty instead of silence. And perhaps most importantly, I've learned that speaking your truth, even when it's terrifying, is the first step toward healing. So when people ask me now if I'm happy, I smile. Not because everything is flawless, but because I finally feel alive, because I was brave enough to say what needed to be said. And all it took was one brave question from the boy I once helped raise, a question that changed everything.